You're listening to the Mom Inspired Show, episode 170 with Cynthia Klein.
Welcome to the Mom Inspired Show. I'm your host, Amber Sandberg, and this show is created to inspire, encourage, and add a little extra fun to your day.
Hey, you guys, I'm super excited to have Cynthia on the show today. Have you ever thought about how can you help your kids to be more resilient when they grow up? Well, this is why I wanted to have Cynthia on the show today. We are going to be talking about what are some key skills that children need to learn to develop to be resilient in life, and why family time is actually a big component of that. And so I just thought it would be great to have her on, share with us why it's important for us to have family time and what that does in regards to children becoming resilient later on in life. And she used an example of kids getting out of bed for school. Now, I personally don't run into this yet, but I have a feeling that could happen when I have teenagers. And she talks about how just nagging our kids to get up is not going to help them. And she tells us another suggestion that would work a lot better. And so I hope you guys are inspired by this episode. And I hope that it kind of gives you some tools and helps you think a little bit different about raising your kids. Now let's go to the show. Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Great to be here, Amber.
So I like to start off every show with an icebreaker on travel. I am a travel agent. Most people know that. And I do like asking my guests what their favorite vacation spot is and why. And this can be with or without kids.
I live near San Francisco, and so we love to go to the Redwoods. The Redwoods or Yosemite or Lake Tahoe. Those are three areas that are really beautiful that are actually within driving distance for half a day for us. So I would recommend anybody, when you come out here, rather than going to San Francisco, go to our natural beauty near here.
Yeah, I wanted to go to the Redwoods. So we were there, I think in 2015, my husband and I, we just didn't have enough time because we went down to Big Sur. So we went the other direction, and that's gorgeous, doing Pfeiffer Beach and all that stuff. And Lake Tahoe is on my list. So where would you recommend going into Lake Tahoe, though? Because there's the north and the south, though, right?
Right. And then there's also the Nevada side. So if you want it calmer, you could go to the Nevada side of the lake. The south side is where the casinos are and skiing in the wintertime, of course. So I've gone a lot to the south side. It kind of depends. If you like to also go into some casinos, you can go to the south side.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to go there and check it out, and it's just on the list, but there's just so many things, so many places to go, so little time. Yes. Okay, let's get started. How about you share with us a little bit more about who you are, your name? You just said you're from San Francisco, and then we'll jump into how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so I'm Cynthia Klein, and I'm a parenting expert. I've been working with families for about 26 years now, and I have a 31-year-old daughter.
Gotcha.
So I've been through the trenches.
Okay. So I wanted to have you on the show because, this is a day and age with so much technology and distractions that it is very easy to be distracted, right? And not have the family time like people might have had back in the day. And so this is why I thought it would be great for you to come on. We can start the new year with new goals. And so I wanted you to talk about why family time and collaborative family conversations creates resilient children. And before we jump into that really quick, I do feel like there's a lot of people you hear like this generation, the younger generation, they're not as resilient and they're being coddled and they're being, I don't know, like maybe spoiled or I'm not sure, but there's just things that I hear. And I just don't know if we're raising our kids to be able to handle things once they get into the real world, once they're older. So I thought this would be perfect to have you come on and talk about, why family time actually can really build that resiliency and why it's such a big deal.
Yeah. So I work privately with parents as well. And I work a lot with couples. And what I find, at least here, I work with people all over, but there can be a tendency to do too much for children. And there's this tendency of kind of like showing your love by doing for them. I have a lot of parents, they put school as the most important thing. And so if their child has a lot of homework to do, then they don't have to do chores around the house, which I see as a really big problem. And this sense of that they're wanting something that they need to give it to them. And I really work with parents on, I believe like chores, contributing to the family, doing problem solving. To me, that's kind of more important or equally as important in school because school will end, right? But you need to know how to interact. You need to know how to be a part of the family. I hear too much of kids kind of not being very polite to their parents. And I feel part of
Yeah.
this whole thing of not feeling valued and important to the family.
Yeah. And so I'm just trying to figure out like, what do you feel like some of the key skills are that they need to learn to develop to be resilient in life? And that, you were saying how they're not doing chores and all that stuff, but what do you feel like kids are really missing out on because we're not teaching them these things?
Mhm. Well, it makes me think of when my daughter was off at college and she was in an apartment and had a roommate. And I had taught my daughter, take over her dishes, to clean the bathroom. I mean, she had to do those things first. We had family meetings, and her roommate was just kind of leaving things all around. My daughter was complaining about it. So it's like we have to learn that kids need to learn that they are contributing to the family as part of the unit, because otherwise when they go off and they're living with other people, they're going to be kind of feeling like they should be catered to. So I don't know in your area,
Mm.
where you live, if there's much of an issue, but out here in California, there can be a real problem with putting school as the most important thing. And we need to know how to get along with people, right? We need to know how to disagree and also come to resolutions, and also to feel courageous to handle problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I do feel like, I just feel like, there's a lot of people that say, with parenting and how parenting styles are maybe from generations before and, kids getting away with stuff more and, it's not really setting them up for things, to be, I guess, better adults and stuff like that. And, yeah, I think that it does, it comes about with like how we are doing things as a family unit and all that kind of stuff. So I guess my next question would be though, so people might be like, okay, yeah, I do understand that and I can see that, but how do they actually learn these skills?
Mm. Well, I'm a big advocate of having family meetings. I think they're very essential to set up. And I don't know if would this be a good time for me to talk about how you do a family meeting?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. And what's so funny is because my daughter at 31 is in the business community, and she'll complain about some people a little younger than her, like not having good thinking skills, which is very funny. Uh, so if you have, and I also wrote this in my book. I have a book, Ally Parenting, ALLY. And so I have a whole chapter on how do you do a family meeting. So if somebody's saying, well, how do I have it in writing? You can find Ally Parenting on Amazon. So the way I have it set up is that you put a piece of paper out, and during the week, anybody writes down there what they want to talk about. So let's say you're having a hard time getting out of the house in the morning, and maybe the parents are wanting to discuss that. Maybe that you're going to have a vacation and you want to discuss that, or you're going to have an afternoon. What are you going to be doing together? Or maybe siblings are being irritated by the other sibling, and so they want to write down. So you write on the list what are the issues that are going to be talked about. And when you start a family meeting, it's really a sense of empowerment. So it's not like we're going to have a family meeting because we're not liking what you kids are doing. It's not that attitude. It's like, how do we all come together? This is our family. And so when you do a family meeting, you have a person. So you have the list up there. Then you have a person that's a chairperson, and you have a person that's a secretary that's writing down notes. And so when you come together, there's a format that I put together, which you do compliments, and then you talk about minutes of the last meeting. Then you talk about new things that you want to talk about. You talk about allowance, if you do allowance, and then you actually do kind of a treat. So you go through a process of what are we working on together, saying good things about each other, and really coming up with some plans together. And part of the important thing about when you have a plan, let's say it's more, I don't know, do you ever have issues getting out of the house in the morning, Amber? Or
Sometimes,
is that
but I feel like it's gotten better as the kids have gotten older. When they were really little,
okay?
that was challenging.
So they're taking on responsibility in the morning
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Good. So you're doing a great job with that.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I would say that,
Well,
but
that's a very common problem. Um, and parents kind of, and so when you get together as a family and you discuss it and you say, okay, what are the issues? What's bothering you? Everybody talks about that. So one of the things I teach parents is how do you actually listen without cutting off kids, listening to them. So people learn how to listen to each other. They learn, one person talks at a time. They learn how to listen to different people's points of view, and then they learn how to let's come up with different solutions that we might choose. We don't know first. We're going to look at all these different solutions. What are possibilities? So this expands the mind, right? It's like, what are possibilities of choices to make? What are possibilities of solutions? And then kids feel like they're part of the solution.
yeah.
Rather than rather than you're the problem, you're not doing this or that or this in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Why do I have to get you out of bed? And so as part of the solution might be, okay, let's say the parent says, I don't want to wake you up anymore. That's not my job. So what do you think what might be one of the solutions that a child would have?
I don't know, Cynthia, but I'm thinking that I may run into this problem when they're teenagers.
Okay. Okay.
I'm thinking to myself, yeah, my girls are like ready to go. I'm almost kind of like, can you sleep in a little bit more to give me a moment? But I could see where you start getting middle school and high schoolers that are kind of dragging behind, and like the moms are having to kind of get on them, and they're getting tired of hearing their voice of being like, come on, let's go. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to address this. Even though I'm not experiencing this right now. And there could be people experiencing this with elementary school kids. My girls are 5 and 8. So,
Okay.
but I do want to touch point on this because I have heard this with moms who have older kids, and I'm kind of like, yeah, what if this starts coming down the pipeline? So this is perfect that we're talking about it, even though I'm not personally experiencing it yet.
Okay. So what happens is there's 3 different roles that parents have. You're either a director, a collaborator, or a supporter, depending on who owns the problem. So so for example, getting out of bed in the morning, if the child wants to eventually go to school and the parent wants them to go to school, that's a joint problem to solve, right? Because both people want to get the results of getting to school. The getting up might be the hard part. So
Right.
if it's a collaborative problem, you come together and you say, this is not my problem to get you out of bed, right? That would be a director role. This is a joint problem because you eventually want to get to school. I want you to get to school. I have things to do. So we need to come together and find a solution for this problem. And so that's really important because then you can say, okay, how do you like it in the morning so far? Do you like it when I'm nagging you, right? So you start to have a dialogue. Okay, you don't like that. Let's look at what else you don't like. Or let's look at what are the problems, all right? You're tired in the morning. Well, let's go back and look at what might be leading to you being tired. So it's really important. I find too many parents take over as a director as though it's just their problem to solve. And then they're pulling. So then the child becomes the problem and the parent tries to fix the problem, which doesn't work. The kid gets really irritated. So if you shift it to this is collaborative. Hey, you know what? This isn't just my problem. And you're trying to make it my problem. So we have to come up with a joint solution together.
Now, do you feel like this takes several times to kind of get going? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
want people on the other end just to be like, okay, so I said that one time and it's not working. Like, what do you like? How often do you think you're going to have to say this to your child, even as a collaborative,
Right.
problem solving issue or
So
whatever?
so that's a great question, because when you have family meetings, if you can have it every week, that would be wonderful. So whenever you come up with a solution, you say, let's say you say, let's try it for 3 days and see how it's working. Then we're going to get back
Yeah.
together on the
Mm.
fourth day. That's what parents don't do. It's like they make a plan, they maybe write it out and they think it's all wonderful, and then their child does it for a couple of days and then they don't do it anymore, and then the parents gets mad, right?
So the key is to keep following up, with what you
Yeah,
talked about.
exactly. And you put it back on them. Okay, well, you say, what was my job? What was your job? How's that going?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Are you following through? So anytime you do a plan, the fifth, I have 5 steps on how you do collaborative problem solving. The fifth step is to set a time when you come
Mm.
back together and you discuss how the plan is going. And I've talked to a lot of parents, when they stop being the director and pushy and controlling and they start collaborating, then the child feels powerful. So one of the resiliency skills is a sense of power. All right. It's like, I can make changes, and a sense of responsibility. I'm responsible for my actions. So anytime you just push and pull, you're not allowing them how to learn to take responsibility for their actions. So anytime you start to feel like either taken advantage of, or I'm doing too much, I'm doing all this for you and you're not helping, it's a key to look at, what role are you playing? Are you trying to be a director and take on all the responsibility? Which is usually what that means, rather than,
Mm.
are you collaborating
Yeah.
and working together as a team? So
Got
I
it.
help parents all the time to think about shifting from directing to collaborating as soon as you can. And then you'll shift to supporting, which is when they solve the problem and you're simply there to help them in any way that they need.
Mm. Okay. That's a good point. Um, So we only have a few more minutes, so I have two more questions. And what is the value of family time other than during a family meeting?
Well, there's 4 kind of basic qualities of self-esteem. So coming together as a family helps develop self-esteem. You need to have a sense, kids, anybody needs to have a sense of belonging. You need to have a sense of uniqueness. In what way am
Mm.
I special?
Mm.
You need to have a sense of power in some way in our life, and also be able to express ourselves.
Mm.
And so if you can, when you come together as a family and you can start thinking about that, okay, this is creating a sense of belonging, this is a unit, right?
Yeah.
If there's something unique that they do, like, let's say you can get together and watch, one of them is doing some great skill and you're watching that. So this sense of belonging to a unit is really important, and then being able to express themselves is important. So time together, even if you're at dinner time is so special. It's really
Mm.
important to have that. And if you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, um, let's say, what do we appreciate about each other?
Interesting. Yeah. I like that.
So the sense of, I'm part of a unit, because that
Mm.
grounds me. This is my tribe. This is my supportive group. And then when you have freedom of expression, when you learn, I work with a lot of parents on, how do you listen? How do you actually know how to listen, even when
Mm.
your child says something you don't agree with?
Mm. That's a good point. Yeah. Mm.
Because, boy, the older they get,
Yeah.
teenagers, and it's important to listen to kids when we don't agree with them, rather than jumping on them right away and
Mm.
saying that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
let's
like
say
that.
they're
Hmm.
talking about bugging their, my brother's always bugging me, and your viewpoint is, well, I don't see it that way. However, if you're sitting at dinner and you can say, oh, tell me more. Wow.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Then Right. Then that will encourage more conversation. They'll have more freedom of expression. And the more a person expresses himself with a good listener, it validates. It's like they're putting out their thoughts and then they can see them and then they can have a better opportunity to evaluate them when there's a safe space to express them.
I like
Because
that.
they won't always be like the best thoughts, however you give them space. So this is what parents and other siblings can learn to do, is provide an opportunity for each person to feel heard, to feel valued and important. And that's not what I had growing up. And so I'll tell you, that's one of the main reasons this is my passion. I've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't have that as a teenager. I didn't have that. And I felt that pain. And I was like, I'm determined to learn how to do this. I did this with my family, and to be able to teach other parents. How do you do this? How do you create this sense of support, community, and then the resiliency that you will be developing in your kids as they go off into the world?
Yeah. Before my last question, because we do need to wrap it up. So what did you feel like you didn't get the most of growing up? Like what was it? Did you feel like you didn't belong, or did you feel like you didn't have the support? Like what was the main thing that stood out to you that you really wanted to make sure that that your child felt, when raising her?
I didn't have emotional support whatsoever. I didn't have a mother who knew how to listen. She was raised in the Depression era.
Yes.
You did all listen. And
Yeah.
and that sense that I wasn't valuable and I wasn't unique.
Interesting.
I'm later in life and I'm like still grappling with that. So it is so important. Yeah. Learn how to listen and value your children.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, yeah. So as I end, might be your answer. So, what is the advice that you would want to give moms to help them get the ball rolling? Would you just say that, or is there something else that you would want to add?
I think about the impact of your words on your child.
Yeah.
Is when your child says something, what they're feeling or thinking about their own issue, what you're saying, is it allowing them to continue talking, or is it called what I call a communication block and shutting them down from talking? Really pay attention to that impact rather than just thinking this is what I should say.
Interesting.
Are you giving unwanted advice? Are you commanding? Are you interrogating? Are you placating? Are you talking about yourself? Are you saying things that are shutting your child down from talking? That's the most important thing, I think, for parents to think about.
That's good. Well,
Called
Cynthia,
communication blocks.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, Cynthia, I appreciate you coming on the show today, and this has been very helpful. And I think just the nuggets you gave us will really help us to be a lot more intentional with parenting.
So can I share how they can find out more about
this?
Yeah,
sure.
So my website is bridges, the number 2, understanding.com. So bridges2understanding.com. The book is Ally Parenting, ALLY Parenting. You can go to Amazon. You can go to my website. So I really hope to encourage parents to really build the relationship with their children and start by learning to listen and spending time with them.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Amber. It's been a pleasure.